Well, good morning everyone, and thank you very much for attending. That's very good of you. It's a great turnout. My name, again, just confirm, is Kenneth Bannerman. I'm the founder and head of the Airfields of Britain Conservation Trust, or as we also call it for short by its initials, ABCT. If you type those initials on the web, you will find our 3,500 pages charity website pretty much instantly. So we're very delighted and honoured to be here today to unveil our latest memorial, as we do all over the UK, to, in this case, Hutton, Cranswick airfield. Now, just give you a quick potted history of this airfield and why it matters in the bigger picture. The airfield really dates from early construction towards the end of 1940. We've done a lot of research into this airfield, as we do with all of Britain's airfields, and it was earmarked as a satellite airfield initially when it was being built. Information is always a bit tricky to come by, but it does seem it was initially planned more as a bomber airfield than, as you'll no doubt know, primarily a fighter one. There were various other airfields associated with this in the early days, and the main one, and you'll know this name of course, Leconfield, and in turn that is sort of indirectly linked with Driffield. So from an historical development perspective, Leconfield was a major fighter airfield in the first half of World War II. But then when that airfield was transferred from fighter to bomber command control, Fighter Command needed a replacement airfield. There is a slight misconception about when Hutton Cranswick first came into being. It is often thought January 1942, which is correct in one sense. That is when flying started here, but this is where Leconfield comes back into the equation. The airfield, as you'll see in our memorial, actually opened in late November 1941, and initially there were 200 airmen that were transferred from Leconfield to here, and then they no sooner had arrived than the airfield officially opened. But the first flying unit here appeared in January 1942, number 610 Squadron flying Spitfires, and the Spitfire became by far and away the most prominent aircraft type to fly from Hutton Cranswick, both for the rest and immediately after World War II. Various Spitfire squadrons passed through here. It was operating under what was called Fighter Command's rotation system. So what that meant was that squadrons that were based more, say, in southern England would be transferred up here for a mixture of training, rest, convoy patrols, and then as things gradually developed, training significantly intensified here. There was an armament practice camp here that provided more specialised training. In addition to that, there was also anti-aircraft cooperation, and significantly as well to air-sea rescue. There was a squadron detachment here based for a year. So this was by any standards a very, very busy airfield. Now, very topically, just without naturally going through all the units, bearing in mind the huge anniversary yesterday with D-Day, at that particular time there was a mixture of units here. So this involved things like anti-aircraft cooperation, and there was also more specialised unit, tactical exercise unit that was based in central Scotland that had a detachment here round about D-Day, and it appears, although it was used for training, fighter training, it was used as an emergency backup just in case there were sudden problems with maybe even an attack from Norway, although of course the main Allied forces were advancing upon Normandy. So squadrons carried on here until after the end of World War II. The last flying unit left in the late spring of 1946, and then the airfield officially closed and was transferred to the War Office in September 1946. So as you may well remember, there was still some flying here, crop spraying aircraft, a Miller called Miller Aerial Spraying. So they used what was left of the main runway just down the road from here, where Robert D. Webster's now based. Flying of that nature finally stopped in the early start of the 1990s. The airfield is still tangible here and there if you know where to look. The control tower, as you no doubt know, has been for many years now a private dwelling. There are various other individual buildings here and there, like for example the battle headquarters. So this place is still tangible architecturally and historically. But just to finish off by saying, looking at the bigger picture, just as we say in our travels, just within reason, please do all you reasonably can to help our airfields, active and disused, and of course not forgetting all the very brave and dedicated people who have served there, at a place like here, and of course their families. So with what we're doing for the charity anyhow, and our airfields are far, far more popular and respected than perhaps many people might think, which is good news of course, that we just can do so much better in honouring, protecting and respecting our airfields, again as I said, active and disused, because just always remember, if nothing else, they have done so much for us ever since 1909 when airfields first came into play. It's almost like a motto for our charity in a way: jobs, facilities and services. They've done so much for us, but one could very easily argue perhaps we should be doing now a bit more to try and help them in their hour of need. And so this is what we are trying to do with the charity in all sorts of ways, not just memorials. We also, for example, we try and help save airfields in this country. That tactic has proved very successful as well. We've saved people from losing their jobs, for example. So we are unquestionably making a real difference for the betterment of society with what we're doing since we first formed in 2006. So again, thank you so much for attending, and therefore we're really honoured and delighted to unveil this latest memorial to yet another of Britain's top physical and historical assets, in this case the one and only Hutton Cranswick Airfield. Thank you all very much.